It's only year two for Brian Harsin at Auburn, but already plenty of pressure mounting for the former Boise State head coach after he went 6-7 in his first year at the helm, and there was plenty of off-season drama as well. Let's break down what things look like for the Auburn Tigers in 2022 as we go game by game for their schedule and what needs to be a bounce-back performance for the Tigers. They start off just like they did last season with an FCS opponent and a low-level FBS opponent as sort of a primer before they face Penn State in week 3. This year, it is Mercer and San Jose State, both inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. Auburn actually has 5 straight home games to open up the season, which is nice for them to try to gather some momentum at the start of the year. So you look at Penn State in week 3, Auburn fell just short in that game. Sean Clifford was great for the Nittany Lions in a 28-20 win last year in Happy Valley. I think Penn State does come in and win this game inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. This one's kind of on the fence. Could at this point looks like it goes either way, but Sean Clifford is back for the Nittany Lions. That's big for their offensive experience. Lots of defensive experience for them returning as well. And if you're James Franklin now in year 9 against an Auburn team that's sort of on the rocks, has a lot of question marks, especially on offense, this is a game that you, at this point of your program, definitely feel like you need to go win in an SEC stadium. So I think that will be Auburn's first loss of the season there in week 3. They then open things up in week 4. They open SEC play against Missouri. It's the first time these teams have met since 2017. Eli Drinkwitz is a former Brian Harsin assistant, so there should be some motivation there. I think Missouri's got too many question marks, though, especially at quarterback themselves. Auburn should get that win. Then they close out the home stretch with LSU. LSU's a completely revamped roster, plenty of talent, but I do think Auburn's had a lot of success against this team inside Jordan-Hare Stadium in recent years. I think Auburn will leave this 5-game home stretch at 4-1 with a couple SEC wins. Then there are a couple toughies. They go on the road at Georgia. Got to chalk that up as a loss at this point. Not really much that needs to be said there. Then at Ole Miss. Ole Miss actually hasn't beaten Auburn since 2015, but I think this is the year. The game's in Oxford. Ole Miss reloaded really well on offense, particularly at the quarterback and running back positions. They also brought in a great wide receiver from UCF and the tight end from USC. I think they've got enough pieces there in order to compete with Ole Miss this year. You're going to need to be able to score in bunches. Not sure Auburn's offense has the look right now that they're going to be able to do that, especially in a road environment. So there's a couple losses, I believe, there for Auburn. Then they get a bye week, which is at a really good spot for them before they play Arkansas at home. Arkansas is another team, has not beaten Auburn since 2015. If this game was in Fayetteville, which last year was a top 20 Arkansas team that went down to Auburn in Fayetteville, they lost that game. If this game is in Fayetteville, maybe I'd give the edge to Arkansas because KJ Jefferson is one of the better quarterbacks returning in the SEC, probably top 10, top 12 in the country as well. But I think being in Jordan-Hare Stadium, it's a great spot for them after this bye week to be able to bounce back from a couple losses. So I think Auburn wins this game over Arkansas. Then you go at Mississippi State. This was a game last year. Will Rogers threw for 415 yards and 6 touchdowns, absolutely shredded Auburn. Mike Leach's teams in the past have really taken good steps forward in year 3, and Mississippi State, in terms of returning production, is the leader in the SEC in a lot of different categories. I think right now at this juncture of the offseason, that looks like a loss for Auburn. In Starkville, if you're looking at what Mississippi State looks like in terms of experience and what happened in last year's game. Then Texas A&M comes to Auburn. Texas A&M's got a lot of talent, of course, and this is a game, again, at this point in the offseason, could really go either way. It'll be interesting to see what Texas A&M looks like over the course of the season, but with what they're projected to be right now, you've got to think that's a win for the Aggies with the question marks that Auburn has. But of course, that home field advantage will give Auburn a good opportunity in that game. Then you've got a break before the Iron Bowl with Western Kentucky. They were really good last season, of course, on offense, but they lose the OC. They lose the quarterback. That should be an Auburn win. Then Auburn goes to Tuscaloosa to close things out in the Iron Bowl. Despite what happened last season where Auburn took Alabama to 4 overtimes, likely will not be the case because they have really struggled in Tuscaloosa since Auburn's last win in Tuscaloosa, which was in 2010 with Cam Newton. Auburn has allowed 45.6 points per game in their matchups against Alabama on the road in the Iron Bowl. So you really need to have a great offense for Auburn to be able to compete in this game. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that against the returning Heisman winner in Bryce Young and what might be the best player in college football on the other side in Will Anderson. So that, in terms of those losses, would get Auburn to 6-6. It'd be interesting to see what happens to Brian Harsin if that were to be the outcome. Right now, Vegas has Auburn around 6.5 in terms of a win total, depending on where you look. And so Auburn normally has one of the toughest strengths of schedule in the country. Right now, they're number 2, according to SP Plus. That yields you a bunch of opportunities to get top wins over national contenders. At the same time, it regularly sets up a gauntlet where, in Brian Harsin, in this instance, in year 2, is a really, really difficult campaign ahead of him. But if Auburn's quarterback play can be at a high level, they have an opportunity, I think, to get around 8 or 9 wins. But right now, looking at the schedule, in terms of where we are here in June, I think Auburn goes 6-6 this season.